Hi, and welcome back. In this series, we are looking at three gifts, a clock, a key, and a net, given to the bride of Christ at the midnight hour in age-to-age timekeeping. Today, I will focus on the parable of the 10 young maidens as recorded in Matthew 25. This parable is one of 12 scriptural references to the midnight hour. It foreshadows the spiritual condition of the church at her midnight hour turning point. Like the parable of the 3 loaves in a previous video, the account of the 10 maidens is told in 2 parts. In this video, we will deal with the first half of the parable. On the surface, the story appears to be rather simple and straightforward. It's a message of spiritual readiness. It begins with the idea that the bride of Christ, which is the whole world, must be prepared to meet her bridegroom, who is Jesus. Well, the first problem in the parable is that the 10 young maidens are divided. They are not acting in a unified manner. The second problem is that they all fall asleep because the bridegroom is so long in coming that they become drowsy. And so the parable ends with a warning, "Keep awake, therefore, for you know not the day or the hour." Okay, so how does the bride of Christ prepare to meet her bridegroom if she has no sense of time? The 24-hour clock, it's useless when it comes to spiritual matters, but this is the only clock that we've ever had. And yet the day and the hour would be knowable if we understood time, age-to-age timekeeping. Okay, so here's the big picture. We are living on the 8th day of creation in age-to-age time. This is the day humanity is presently navigating. It is a clock of biblical history. The day begins with the ancient stories of Cain and Abel at the conceptual hour of dawn. And then the story of Abraham marks the conceptual hour of noon. Jesus enters temporality at the conceptual hour of sundown. We are presently living at the conceptual hour of midnight. 6,300 years of biblical history have thus far passed on the 8th day, almost 2,100 years per age. The day and the hour are both knowable in macro timekeeping, but they are not knowable in 24-hour timekeeping or micro time. Given this macro perspective of time, Jesus begins the parable with these words. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like this. Okay, when? What time is the then to which Jesus refers? Is he pointing to the future life of the bride within the age in which he was born? If so, then let's declare it. Prior to midnight, the kingdom of heaven will be like this. 10 young maidens took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. Now the number 10 is carefully chosen. It represents the smallest group of bridesmaids within the original tribal organization during the Exodus. The original organization of tribes is the bride as a baby. The baby bride was organized in teams of 10 teams of 10. Each team of 10 was responsible for the well-being of their tribal community, ensuring all needs were met equitably so that her people could survive and flourish. Jesus continues the parable. 5 of them were foolish and 5 were wise. When the foolish took their lamps, they took no oil with them, but the wise took flasks of oil with their lamps. Okay, this is a setup. Jesus is setting up a scenario of deep division within the teams of 10 prior to midnight. The division begs a question. Who has enough oil for their lamp? And it results in judgment and finger pointing. Well, who is wise? Who is foolish? It's not a pretty picture, but it is an accurate portrayal of the deeply divided church on earth prior to midnight. Now, Jesus continues, as the bridegroom was delayed, there's the long wait of time, all 10 maidens became drowsy and fell asleep. But at midnight, there was a shout. Look, here is the bridegroom. Come out to meet him. I am shouting as loudly as I can shout. It's midnight. And I am saying as clearly as I can say, look at the clock and the key. Here is our bridegroom looking exactly as he said he would look. He said, I am the light of this world. The clock and the key are embedded in the text of Genesis 1. Both have been hidden from our view unless we look for the visible spectrum of light as we read the story of creation. Okay, John chapter 1 reads, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. In him all things were made, and without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of all people. And I will shout it again. It's midnight. Look, here is your bridegroom. Can the bride of Christ fathom the idea that Jesus, who once entered temporal time in flesh and bone, can present himself as a bridegroom dressed in the visible spectrum of light? Will the bride of Christ come out of her darkness in the midnight hour to meet the light of Christ? Remember this. Millions of people have turned away from the flesh and bone of Jesus because he wasn't the Messiah that they expected. Will millions of people turn away from these colorful wheels because we just aren't expecting to see Jesus robed in the visible spectrum of light? Think about it. Next up, there's a shortage of oil in this parable to talk about. See you next time.